Hello and welcome to the special launch program for the 6th annual Forbes Women Africa Leading Women Summit 2021. My name is Thematic. Now, since its inception in 2016, this prestigious gala event has brought together a unique collection of female leaders and trailblazers from across Africa and the world. Now, to be held on the 8th and 9th of March, a year after the first COVID-19 case was reported in South Africa. The summit will reflect on the most disruptive event in recent history through the collective anecdotes and experiences of contrarians and corporate powerhouses, also recording for posterity the measurable solutions that will reset Africa. Now, before we speak to the women behind the Forbes Women Africa Leading Women Summit 2021 and meet some of the amazing women who will be speaking at the summit, let's take a quick look at the history from the previous years.
It's nice to see that we are actually taking more of an initiative on finding out what are Africans doing.
As Forbes Women Africa, we are exceptionally honored to have Naomi Campbell grace the Leading Women Summit.
The power we hold as women is remarkable.
Women should be bold enough to say, I'm building an empire that is going to trade not only in South Africa, but on this continent and globally.
So I would love to share with you why I entered Miss South Africa.
International Women's Day for me means mainly two things. One, it's a day of celebration, but it's also a day of reflection.
Be anything you want to be, and just motivation and determination to be that person.
African child, your gifts matter. African child, your story matters.
But what's key is that we do it the African way. Just to be true to yourself. And it's difficult because we often think the world puts us in different boxes, but actually we put ourselves in those boxes.
A world with women in mind and where women are involved. Start by just increasing the efforts to mentor, to promote women within your own companies and your businesses.
Now, a champion for the event and for women's empowerment is the ABN Group Managing Director Roberta Naika, who joins us now to tell us more about the early days and what sets this year's summit apart from the others.
6 years ago, Forbes Women Africa launched the Leading Women Summit. It was an exciting gathering and grew year on year, and last year was our largest since the start. We believe it is an opportunity for women to interact and move on ideas that impact the continent. They have the space to speak and to listen to women leading the way across an area of industries and professions. We had hundreds of women meet and network in one room. A host of fantastic speakers shared their insights and inspirational stories. A multitude of media carried content from the event across multiple platforms in the following weeks and months, taking women's conferences on the continent to a whole new level. This year, the summit will for the very first time be held on a virtual platform because of the pandemic. Yes, we will miss the networking opportunity, which was in large what contributed to the success of the event, but the virtual event does allow for a much larger worldwide audience. The platform also allows for one to still network, albeit virtually, but the greatest advantage is because of the fact that there is no travel involved, we now have access to a larger pool of quality local and international speakers. This year, for the very first time, the event will be held over 2 days because the program was just far too long for us to fit it into one day. For us, we believe that the summit is a source of inspiration to connect and empower women. helping them to realize the potential and rise to new heights. Of course, the summit will look back on the year that changed everything. But I think it is also important to focus on how we reset Africa on a new path to recovery, growth, and inclusivity as a single market where Africa trades with Africa. You will hear more about the theme and the speakers from Renuka. But what is so exciting about the theme this year is when we talk about the different leadership dimensions that needs to be harnessed as we navigate this time of unprecedented challenges, there is such a sense of urgency and commitment to translate ideas into action. And so when you look at the conversations that will take place throughout the day, whether they are issues impacting women or about entrepreneurship, we expect people to want to commit to real solutions. From previous years, we have seen that people don't just want to talk about their problems, but they really want to understand how can they roll up their sleeves and solve these problems. And the commitment to this has never been higher. So yes, we are excited and certainly look forward to great conversations and hoping that next year, as the world returns to a new norm, we too can revert to a format that will incorporate some sort of physical aspect again. On that note, I'm honored and privileged to invite you to join us on the 8th and the 9th of March for the 2021 Forbes Women Africa Leading Women Summit.
That was Roberta Naika, the Managing Director of the ABN Group. Now joining me on Zoom, because we do things virtually now, to tell us more about the event is Renuka Methil, the Managing Editor of Forbes Women Africa, and Suzanne Morrell, the Country Manager for South Africa at Mastercard. Now starting with you, Renuka, I'd just like you to give me a taste of what's on the agenda for the summit on the 8th and the 9th of March.
Thank you, Roberta. Thank you, Zinati. Good to see you, Suzanne. What is the agenda? It is an African agenda. It is a global agenda, truly. Now, 2020 has been all about breaking the mold. And just as COVID-19 has taught us that the greatest lesson of our time is that we are in this together as humanity, as we take on this virulent virus that's all pervasive. But which it begs the question, why has this most disruptive period in modern history also deepened the chasm of inequality? Why has it further exacerbated all the issues that we've had, poverty, unemployment, and gender inequality? And which is why we need to have this important conversation. We need to focus on important aspects such as the triple bottom line, which is progress, people, planet. And for that, we need to bring both halves of humanity. And thus, because this year has tested us so much, and there's so much of resilience that we've seen, there's been more social justice warriors, there's been more medical warriors, and they all need to be celebrated. So in a historic landmark year, what you need are historic landmark conversations. And for the last 6 years, for the last 5 years, this is the 6th year of the Forbes Women Africa Leading Women Summit. We've always led some of those pioneering conversations, and it's a much anticipated calendar event. So this year too, we're going to bring some very powerful A-listers from around the world. In 2019, as Roberta mentioned, we had Naomi Campbell. Last year, we had a host of A-list speakers, not just one speaker. And this year, too, it's just the sheer galaxy of, powerful stars that will descend into our virtual room for 2 days. That's going to be very, very exciting. And it's something that Africa needs to look forward to, because it's going to be speakers from across Africa and the world. And because of the A-listers and the big names in the speaker lineup, we will also no doubt have A-listers and big names that are creating impact in Africa in the audience. And this is what technology does. I mean, it's such a great leveler. It brings together a unique collection of people. And that is why this summit is called The Power of the Collective. And these are women who have dismantled shackles, who have disrupted power structures, and they're all coming together on the 8th and 9th of March.
Indeed, the ceiling crashes. Looking forward to that. That sounds very exciting. Renuka, over to you, Suzanne. I mean, this is the third time that Mastercard has partnered with Forbes Women Africa to make this event possible. The first time was for the Regional Leading Women Summit held in Kigali, Rwanda in August 2019, and the second time in Durban in March 2020. What keeps Mastercard coming back? What is it about the summit that appeals to Mastercard?
Yeah, no, it's I just think it's an incredible opportunity. I mean, ultimately, Mastercard is committed, right, to women's equality and women's inclusion in the economy. And to me, when I think of a commitment, it has to be more than just making a statement. I mean, I think you have to really elevate that commitment as a North Star, and I think you have to be prepared to take actions that get us, ever closer to that goal. I mean, we're in a place where we're both able. But I think we also have, as a company, a really strong sense of responsibility to take action when it comes to equality. So when you look at even from a company perspective, starting from the inside of the company and working our way out, I mean, we do things like we pay women the same as their male peers. We involve women in designing products. We engage women as customers, and we dedicate funds, right, for sponsorships and community development. And so I look at the Forbes Women Summit, and I just think it's one of those great examples of a really important sponsorship. I mean, the summit provides professional women with an opportunity to discuss some of the world's biggest issues, right? Business challenges, workplace issues, and the further empowerment of African women. I think it's also this fantastic opportunity to showcase really inspiring women that are doing extraordinary things, share their stories, and to really network with others. And I think we could all use that these days. I think women need to be able to see and connect with other women who are their peers, but also to look to role models.
Thank you, Suzanne. Now, over the 2 days of the summit, over 40 exceptional speakers will be taking part from across Africa and the world, sharing their thoughts and opinions. And today we're going to introduce you to 3 of them. Without further ado, let's hear from Emma Theophilus, the Namibian Deputy Minister of Information and Communications Technology.
This summit is an opportunity for women across the continent to connect, to network, and to be proud of themselves and the work that they're doing for the continent. I think many of us work individually and in our silos, and it takes a lot for other women to recognize what we're doing and for us to find ways to collaborate. So we're able to bring energies and more work towards the wonderful things we're doing on the continent. So it's important to take stock sometime and to be able to connect with one another. I'm very excited for this year's summit, not only to meet and to network with other women, but also to share vulnerable and candid conversations and to share my own experiences as someone who's in public office in the short 24 years I've lived. So I'm very excited for that, and for other attendees to also share their experiences so we're able to grow together and hopefully shape as collective women on this continent the trajectory of a new Africa. I did not expect to be in this position so early on in my life, but I always knew I would be career adjacent in politics. So for me, this is an opportunity to try to impact change, hopefully for a longer time because I have an early start, and that hopefully we get a new way on how we do business on the continent.
Indeed. Now, crossing the Atlantic to New York in the United States, let's catch up with a Spanish African-American businesswoman, Bisila Pococo.
I think that at this time is the most important time for women to really expand their networks and also to get inspiration for other women. Through history, women, we didn't have really big networks. So I believe that First Women is trying to really do that. And also to just give the women other tools and source of inspirations to see what other women are doing and just have a conversation to see how we're moving forward. And this is the reason why I think that this year in particular, it's more essential that we are all part of this forum. We're going to talk a little bit about the new economy that we are living. You know, we went from a sharing economy to a economy that is more indoors. How women working from home, we could see opportunities, and also how we wear different hats at the same time. So I think it's good for, in this isolation economy, how we can cope with these situations. We also facing a lot of challenges depending on your situation, because a lot of women could not go outside. They have to really deal with childcare, the education. Women also are becoming teachers at home. So how are we going to cope with that? And what is the advantages? Because in every challenging situation, there is always some opportunities there too. I've been in New York for 20 years. I've been working always in international business, helping companies to do business overseas. So my first job that I had, it was to help companies from Spain to do business in the United States through the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce. So that was what brought me to New York, and I'm still here, helping now a little bit more companies from all over the world, not only Spain, Europeans, Africans, any company that want to do business in the United States, and also helping American corporations to go to Africa. I go to Africa every 6 weeks, and now since March last year, I haven't been able to take a plane, which for me, it's extremely difficult to cope with that situation. So I hope very soon we are back, and I really miss to be in the motherland.
Now let's bring it back to the continent of Africa and meet the first Black African woman to summit Mount Everest. An absolute inspiration. Her experience on the mountain resulted in many powerful lessons in life and business. She is South African explorer Sarah Khumalo.
I think it's important for women because it's time. It's about time that we moved our leadership skills from the homes with the children to the world, because we have seen what women in leadership have delivered in terms of COVID-19 and much more. It's important for us to remind each other that we are natural leaders, and the world needs not only just male leaders, needs us all in order to prepare the next generation and change their narrative effectively. Oh, what a time to be alive. I just want to be able to contribute in a small way. I want to learn from other formidable women that will be on the panel with me. And I want to be able to add my small experience and be able to inspire somebody else to do better, to do more. And that as a collective. They say that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go further, go together. And I would like to be together with other formidable women so that we can take Africa to the next level. I am the first Black African female to summit Mount Everest. What an honor and a privilege it was, the 16th of May, 2019. It's just one of the lessons that I picked up from this experience is realizing that the sky is not the limit. Something that I grew up knowing, something that we all talk about. Just because that's what we can see doesn't mean that's where our limits end. We need to teach ourselves and the next generation that we are capable of even more. We're capable of walking with the stars up above, you know, in everything that we do. I do realize that Everest is not for everybody, but you have an Everest in your life. What are you doing about it? And how are you handling it? That will inspire the next generation to do more, to do it better, to do it quicker, and to be on par with the rest of the world. I also learned about resilience, you know, how to accept things that I can't change and work on what I can change and still move forward and be able to summit. How to create the right partnerships for the right time to get to the top of the world. It was also humbling to realize that, you know, the summit, there isn't enough space for everybody. There is no need to fight for space on the summit. The more of us go up, the more of us are going to be able to celebrate in our own lanes at the top of the world.
Well, that's certainly enough to whet my appetite for the Forbes Women Africa Leading Women Summit 2021. Now back to my guests. Suzanne, I'd like to hear more about Mastercard's contribution to the gender agenda. What is Mastercard's overarching message to the women of Africa, and why should they make it a point to participate in this year's summit?
I think, it's certainly, Mastercard is, as I said, is absolutely committed to the global equality of women. I mean, achieving that equality, in my mind, it means not just discussion, but also action. And I think the key message is that there are real costs, right, to women's inequality. And I think those costs are borne by individuals and by society. And today, I look and I think of some of the stats that should all be, I think, should be upsetting to everybody. I mean, the fact that we've got a quarter of African girls that are not in school, 2/3 of women in sub-Saharan Africa don't have a bank account, 77% of South African women don't have access to credit. You take all those factors together, and one estimate says that, African women will not achieve equality for another 142 years. I mean, that means effectively 6 generations of women, they're going to be born with less opportunity and worse outcomes than their male peers. And society bears, the burden of those missing contributions of women. It's estimated that women, if they were empowered, could contribute $95 billion, or, if we think about it in Iran, it's 1.4 trillion every year to the economies of Southern Africa. And I think about a time like this when, could we ever use, certainly that full empowerment, and think of those contributions that women could be making and the economic difference that could be making to these countries. So, I look at something like the Summit Forbes Women Africa and think about why it matters. And it's very much because it's a further opportunity to really showcase the importance of these issues and how critical they are to our future state.
Indeed. Now, Renuka, I want to bounce back to you. I want to get the lowdown on the 2-day summit. There are some very interesting panel discussions that are planned, and I just want you to talk to me about some of those.
Well, thanks, Zinati. So the summit over 2 days is going to be an editorial-driven event. So to me, it's going to be a visual representation of the magazines that we put together, all the content in the magazines that we put together. So the panels will be topics pertinent to COVID-19 this year, particularly. So we have some interesting conversations around the culture shift in the C-suite, for example. Also, is the COVID pandemic a gender pandemic? We have an interesting panel discussion on the rise of the low-touch economy and the isolation economy and the double shift for women. And then we've got some one-on-one fireside chats as well, with some very big names from across the world. There are more confirmations coming through, so the speaker lineup is looking quite spectacular at this stage. I can just take a few more names. It's Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who's tipped to be the next. He's the finalist for the WTO as the chief of the WTO, and also Zubini Tunzi, who is Miss Universe from 2019. We have Africa's richest woman, Folorunsha Alakija, who's also the executive chair of Famfa Oil in Nigeria. And we've got more names trickling in. And essentially, all of them are going to present unvarnished, genuine views on gender strategies going forward, especially in a post-pandemic, in a post-pandemic scenario. And in addition, of course, we have a lot of young, powerful speakers as well. And I think what will be particularly different this year is the human emotions that we will be able to detect in some of the panels as they unravel and some of the conversations. Because I think we all have that one powerful anecdote or that one unique personal story that we can share. And these will no doubt be stories of the unwavering spirit of womanhood, the unwavering, unflinching spirit of humanity. And then that sense of gratitude that we're all alive, we're all present to have these conversations in the first place. So it's going to be absolutely spectacular, the lineup, that much I can promise. And in the coming weeks, there are more names trickling into our inboxes, and I am personally extremely excited. I've never been this excited. This is the first time I've seen so many names come forth wanting to participate at the summit.
It's exciting indeed. And finally, Renuka, can anyone join this virtual event, and how does one get to be a delegate?
So this is a free to attend summit. So across 2 days, anyone in the world can participate, but you need to register early. You need to register ahead of time at leadingwomensummit.co.za. So book your space now. Space is limited. So I urge you to do that if you're really keen to attend and be a part of the journey of change.
Well, that brings us to the end of this special event, the special launch program. Thank you very much to my guest. That was Renuka Methel, the managing editor of Forbes Women Africa, and also Suzanne Morrell, the country manager for South Africa at Mastercard. And thank you for watching. And indeed, can't wait. The Forbes Women Africa Leading Women Summit is going to take place virtually on the 8th and 9th of March this year. Visit the website to book. That's leadingwomensummit.co.za, leadingwomensummit.co.za. From me, Zinathi Kuma, it's goodbye for now.